Entertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, and a man who proudly really didn't watch a single minute of the World Cup, but I paid laser-like attention to pre-NFL training camp updates as if they were real news. I don't know if that's a shameful thing or a good thing, but no World Cup in this house, unfortunately. But sad but true. And with me back in the booth is probably somebody who watched every minute of it back there. Some Russian nation was probably your team, wasn't it, Paul B?
Yeah. I really didn't pay very close attention either. Just if I glance up at the screen if I'm at a bar or something. That's about it. Yeah, not really a World Cup guy.
Nice. We didn't get a chance to talk since you got back from Nashville. How'd you guys enjoy Nashville this year?
Oh, it was great. Much more mellow than Winter NAMM.
Sure.
A lot more relaxed, less people. You could actually get some stuff done. Great town. Amazing food.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, we are here on the big show. Paul's there making sure everything sounds good, and on Periscope, hopefully it looks good. How you guys doing? Yay. And about me, so let's see. My company does strategic public relations, marketing and branding for technology companies, music companies, all sorts of companies out there. My company, Robertson.com. If you want to reach me, you can always reach out to Scott@Robertson.com, 2Ms.com. Or you could reach out on Twitter at Robertson.com or on Facebook. Will come as no surprise. Facebook.com/Robertson.com, 2Ms like communication. Reach out. Let me know you're out there. Let me know what you think of the show, and let me know if there's any topics that you want me to cover. Always happy to do that. Today's episode, which is episode 91, if you're keeping track at home, is what I like to call uncommon sense. And, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, just the idea of common sense, because, there was a time when I sort of believed in common sense, the idea that everybody sorts of, basically people grew up, you became educated, and even though people made mistakes, here and there along the way, generally people kind of, got things right and had, kind of sense about them to do things the right way. But as I've grown older, I realize that that's wrong. We don't always share a common viewpoint, and while that's pretty cool, when you turn that dial to marketing, there are some things that probably really need to make sense, and they do not for a great many companies, and that's the kind of stuff that perplexes me out there in the world. So I thought I would dedicate an episode to just talking about a few of those things. So hopefully, the point of this show is to educate and entertain a bit. And so just wanted to get a couple things out there that I'm noticing. So we're going to explore all those things. We're going to talk about who really stepped in it this week and who really hit it out of the park. And this is going to be another I'm going to go on a limb and say that this is going to be an Emmy-Award winning episode of the program. It's we have visuals now. I don't know if we're eligible for an Emmy, but if we were, this would be the episode that would win that Emmy. So good luck for next year is what I would say for that. So let's talk about common sense for a second. So, as I mentioned, we don't share a common viewpoint, and it's important to sort of know that when you're going to apply your common sense filter and go, oh, well, that doesn't make, any common sense, or that doesn't make what you're really saying is, and what I'm, really saying, to myself a lot is, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. That's not going to be something that, that is a good thing or something that we would do, at good old Robertson.com and for our clients. So let's dig into that just a little bit more, shall we? So the areas that I want to talk about I just want to talk about 3 areas in this segment. And, there's a lot more things that we could talk about, but I just want to limit it to these 3 things. I want to talk about brand messaging. I want to talk about privacy. And I want to talk about sort of a bucket that is sort of like your ongoing stupidity out in the world. And believe me, that's a big bucket. We may not have enough time to the show could be a week long. We wouldn't have enough time to dig into that, but just a few observations on that. So the first thing I want to talk about is brand messaging. It's one of the first things that any good marketing firm is going to dig into because, just to put it in Mr. Miyagi-like terms, no message, no marketing, right? Message bad, karate bad. Message not emotional and sucky and all about you. Marketing sucky and all about you. Okay, right? So very, very important. This is something that that didn't occur to me in the early part of my career. I just took everybody's messages, and I was smiling and dialing in PR, right? I was calling down and just hey, I was making kind of assumptions. I assumed the message is right. Lots of smarter people above me have tried to figure this out, and I assume it's the right message. So I'm just going to work on sort of the amplification side of things. But as I've grown more in my career, as you become more senior in the profession, you want to take control over and really improve upon the foundational kind of stuff. Because, as I said before, if that stuff is wrong, get ready for a lot of stuff to be wrong. Everything that you do from that point on is wrong. If the foundation of the house that you build isn't mathematically aligned, if it's not correct, then the whole rest of the house that you build all the way up on top of it comes crumbling down, right? So, and even though like 9 out of 10 people would agree with me on that, right? And they would say, "Oh yeah, Scott, that's absolutely true. That's just common sense. That's just common sense, right?" Thousands of companies fail at this and fail hard at this. And I think it's because we have a lot of people in charge of our touch points and communications that maybe don't have a communications background. And I think it's some of these digital marketing companies and some of these, like technically astute companies that didn't go to marketing school and don't understand why the message is important. They're kind of like me at the beginning of my career. They take the client's message. Oh yeah, this must be great. Let's give it to our people in India. We'll knock this crap out. It's going to be great. Here is the problema with that approach. It's not going to be great. You have a world that is very distracted. You have a world that is, it's very hard to get attention, even harder to build trust. And the only way that you're going to be successful in doing those kind of things is to have a message that is 100% about the audience. You have to spend time talking about their needs, their wants, their desires. I preach about this. I talk about this a lot. Yet in almost every communication instance that I go into, companies are talking about themselves. They're talking about music companies, terrible at this, because they're talking about speeds and feeds. They're talking about how many, here's how many frets it has. Here's how many, here's the, secret sauce that we have. This is all about us. We have, this, it goes this fast. It has this many features, features. They don't even sometimes talk about benefits. But even if you're going to talk features and benefits, we talk about benefits to whom, right? To the audience, right? Their wants, their needs. And when I'm talking about that, I'm always talking about their deep needs, the stuff that completes them, right? If you play a certain brand of guitar, it's not just the guitar that you play, it is part of your identity. And it's really, really important for marketing to understand that it's not, and we, the audience, assign those things to our identities, right? As a marketer, one of the best things that you can do is to listen and know about that, because then you won't be one of these companies that really, shoots out of the gate and is talking about features. Even if you talk about features and benefits, make sure the benefits come from the perspective of the audience, not benefits that you kind of think they want, or that you have sat in a room and go, okay, well, somebody said we had to have benefits, so here's a big long list of features, and they all have benefits. Here's the benefits. That's not what that conversation is. That conversation needs to be, let's really get into their heads and hearts. Let's really understand what it is that drives them. And if you do that, then you're really doing a better job of marketing, because the job of marketing becomes a lot easier, because then you don't have to convince somebody of your features and benefits, because they already are paying attention because of their own needs, right? Human beings are very good at acting on their own needs, wants, desires, that sort of thing. We're really, really good at that, right? We've been taught since birth how to do it, and we're really, really good at it. And somewhere along the line, marketing thought that they could kind of hijack that and sort of, sell people and convince people to do things that are other than that agenda. I wouldn't bet the farm on that statement, by the way. People are going to behave the way that they want to behave. What you want to do is you want to do that jujitsu Mr. Miyagi move of being able to kind of align what you're trying to do with what they're trying to do. And the more that you can align what you're trying to do with what they're trying to do, the more that you're going to have a cohesive and a really good brand message. I always talk about Apple when I talk about brand messaging, and it's hard to do better than Apple. They're very, very good at showing you what you already know you want. They're very good at it. They're the best technology company ever in the idea of branding and the idea of just making their stuff about your psychological stuff. Their very famous tagline for a while was "You're more powerful than you think." Right? Now there's two personal pronouns, and they're pointed back at you from their tagline. Right? That means they're not talking about themselves at all. They're just talking about you. Right? You see a lot of taglines with "you" kind of in parentheses, kind of "you understood." You understood as the subject of the sentence. "Just do it" is one of those. Right? You see those, right? You see these messages that are talking to you and that are personal. And people say, "Oh, well, that's it's great for a Fortune 500 company, but I have a little pretzel store, on the in the mall, and how does that apply to me?" Here's how it applies to you. Instead of talking about really anything else, you just want to associate with what you're doing with the feeling that your audience wants to get when they're eating your pretzels, right? That's brand messaging. And as commonsensical as that whole stuff that I was rattling out, it isn't done. I'm here to tell you, it isn't done. There are so many companies that leave opportunity all over the table because they haven't spent enough time working on the message. They were so excited to get on Instagram and start tweeting and start doing everything. There's a million ways to deliver the message, but if the message sucks, so does your marketing. Okay? Write that down. Make a bumper sticker. Make a damn T-shirt. If the message is bad, you should stop working, because nothing's going to work, and it's got to be about them. I count the number of personal pronouns in somebody's about us statement, right? You should always have more personal pronouns about them, your audience, than you do about you. If you have a bunch of we's in there, and we've been doing this, and we've been doing this, take all that crap out of there. Kill it, and make it all about them. Very, very important. The second thing that is very common sense, but is violated all the time, is privacy. This should be something that is defended vigorously by the marketing department, because we're trying to build relationships, right? Yet marketing pushes back on privacy more than anyone I know, and they look for new ways to be creepy and invasive. And I want to do a little plug for the show. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to have an attorney on here who's going to discuss the new California data privacy law that just went into effect, and also GDPR. And focusing on privacy. This is really, really important. The next battleground in marketing is going to be the companies like Google that want you to be able to give you all the information in the world about the audience, super invasive, creepy levels of information, so that you, with good intent, so that you can create the perfect ad for those people, right? The perfect match between like advertising and need, right? That's great. And the people's need to be left alone. The people's need to remain private and to browse anonymously. Get ready to watch, because everybody who does my job for a living is going to have to become very steeped and extremely good at learning how to back off. It's something that we didn't have to do in the early part of the internet revolution. We've just been like, yay, let's get lists and let's market to people. And email marketing is free. So let's do it all. It's going to be great. And the people are like, hell no. We've had enough. We're going to start hiding our identities. We're going to start blocking. We're going to, we're going to do ad blocks. We're going to do everything else. So the idea of privacy, well, again, it's very, it's very common sense, right? Oh, sure, marketing would want to protect the privacy of people. That's not true. That's not true. It needs to be true. It needs to be true. We all need to be really steeped in this stuff. And even though I've had a lot of marketers say, well, that's really boring and that's really lawyer stuff and that's all that kind of stuff, I get that, believe me. But if you're not good at privacy, you're not going to be good at the relationship-y part of what we're trying to do here in this department, okay? Very, very important. And the third thing that I want to talk about is just sort of, the ongoing stupidity that never ceases to amaze me in the world of marketing. And this is like little things from Henry J. over at Gibson. We talked about a few weeks ago when he did an interview with Music Radar and he was blaming the customer because they didn't want the new guitars with all the new technology features. And it's never a good idea to blame your customer because if you're in the relationship building business, you don't want to do that. They're going to move on. They don't want to be blamed, right? And then there's things like United Airlines, just crisis after crisis after crisis. And all the common sense in the world, pushes back on this stuff. It's like, and sometimes you just run out of words for why stuff like that's happening. If you're in communications, if you're in the communications business, you need to be, I want to say you want to have more common sense than the average bear, man. You want to make sure that you are always weighing, does this make sense? If we said nothing, would it be, could we be in a situation where we would still be better off than if we said this, if we got into this? And believe me, all you have to do is sit through one winning and losing segment of this show, and you'll be like, yeah, none of that makes sense. None of that stuff makes sense. Sense really isn't as common as we thought. But marketing sure needs to make it. It's really, really important. And the third segment, I'm going to come back. I'm going to give you some sensical tips to kind of bring a little more sense into marketing and into your marketing, hopefully. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing in the next segment. Right now, you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media. Come on back. We're gonna see who stepped in it and who did well this week. Thanks.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EntertalkRadio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. You are super duper smart because you are tuned into May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. Paul B's with us. We've been talking about common sense. Paul, what's wrong with the world? What happened? What happened?
I don't know.
Where did it go south? Where did it go south?
Not enough common sense, obviously, but where did it go?
Exactly. It's not common. It's not common as we're gonna find out. No, I'm just kidding. But there's some things out there that seriously, I just kind of scratch my head. You know, you don't know. Maybe that's a sign that you're getting old. You know, like one of those people, get off my lawn.
Yeah. I
get off my lawn.
I think that's the most plausible explanation.
I'm just getting old. The world hasn't changed. You've changed, Scott.
Yes.
What's the matter with you? The world, there's no problem with the world. There's a problem with you, man. What is your problem? All right, then. Well, let's get into winning and losing this week. So I think we got to start off by talking about Build-A-Bear, right? So Build-A-Bear Workshop, a lovely company. If you have small children, you're familiar with Build-A-Bear Workshop, obviously. They're from my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. That's where the company started. And they, kind of depending on your perspective, this could be a win or it could be a big loss. We don't know. Here's the details. So Build-A-Bear Workshop had a promotion that was called Pay Your Age. Basically, they promised teddy bears for the cost of your child's age in dollars, right? And usually their teddy bears are like, they're like $20, $25 and up. You can buy like clothing for them and things like that, right? And they have these shops all around, shopping malls in all of suburbia. And they have this, pay your age event. Now, the event proved to be too popular, right? Basically they couldn't handle the crowds this week, and they had to turn a lot of shoppers away. And they, lines of people stretched into the hundreds outside of Build-A-Bear Workshop locations all across the country. They had to shut the sale down just hours into the day due to quote unquote safety concerns, right? Because the lines were just too big. And anybody who's ever worked at worked on the business side of a trade show know that, if you have big lines of people, you got problems potentially coming your way afterwards. So it was so successful that it failed. Believe it or not. And the CEO went on the Today Show today and had to apologize to customers. And it's like basically they said, let's see. So here's the apology. First, I want to say that we are in the business of making sure kids had the best experience possible. Our entire mission is about adding a little more heart to life. And our objective was actually just to make sure we could increase the accessibility for kids to make their own furry friend and take it home. And then, you basically had to, they had to go in and, if you just think about it, they have a huge marketing promotion. It's hugely successful. There's lines around the block, right? Everybody in the promotions department, marketing department is just high-fiving like crazy. Then they had to shut it down for safety concerns, and the CEO has to go on an apology tour to apologize for kind of pissing people off, right? So, interesting, right? Interesting in the sense that even when you have a huge success, there's still the possibility to pull some. I would classify it as a win. I think anybody in marketing, if you can get people to pay attention and to behave the way that you want them to behave, which obviously is in line with how they want to behave. Build-A-Bear is very good at kind of showing you that if your child has this, then they will love you more and love each other more and love the world more, or whatever you want to add after that. But they're very, very adept at that. Like I said, I could go upstairs at my house, and we have several of the Build-A-Bears because of parental guilt. More than anything else, it's the fact that the other side hits, and it's like, well, if I don't get the Build-A-Bear, then I'm a sucky parent. And this is a way I could spend $20 or $25 and kind of feel okay about myself for like at least one more day. So, but aside from, sorry, again, to brand messaging a little too much there, but just talking about the promotion, I would say the promotion was a big win. And then they up until the point when it lost, and then they had to they ticked off a lot of people who were waiting in line and trying to get their bear. And then there's a lot of stories about that. So it's kind of part winning and part losing, but definitely worth mentioning, definitely worth thinking about if you're going to be doing any, promos and those kind of things. The first thing I was thinking of is the last thing we heard having really big lines around the corner was the Apple iPhone, right? And strangely enough, even though there were quote unquote safety concerns about those lines too, Apple never canceled, the launch of its phones, or never said anything. They never said anything about it, right? I mean, there were huge lines in malls that went, out the door and around buildings and all those kind of things. We kind of remember that. But Apple, you just see the difference. I mean, honestly, did Build-A-Bear Workshop step in it because they kind of lost their guts at the last minute and canceled it? Or, where Apple just said, hey, let's go. Well, we don't care, that kind of thing. That's an interesting, that'd be an interesting discussion for another time. But anyway, this week, Build-A-Bear Workshop is both certainly winning all the way up into the point in which they were losing. AMC Theaters is looking to change the way people go to the movies. They have unveiled a $20 monthly subscription plan. They're creating a service that kind of rivals this subscription-based ticketing company called MoviePass. So they're going to have a $19.95 a month ticket service that allows members of the loyalty program to see up to 3 movies per week, which is pretty good, right? Because your going rate to see a movie is $12 to $15, maybe even $20 if you go to one of those theaters that serves the adult beverages and has the big recliners. Those are great, by the way. But $19.95, you can see up to 3 movies per week, and the movie business is starting to look at, what would it look like if we could move to a monthly subscription model? And this is a fascinating thing to start watching. A monthly subscription model, like Apple Music or Spotify or are those kind of things for the movies to go see movies, and then we could limit how many movies people see, and that's sort of fun stuff. Really kind of interesting to watch what they're doing. I would say they're definitely winning. Share prices are definitely winning after that announcement. But watch the movie business as they figure out a way to kind of create this sort of ongoing revenue stream instead of waiting for the summertime and big blockbusters and then sort of going dark the rest of the year, which is, or except around Christmas, I guess. So anyway, winning, I would say. Business reporting. There was an article that came out and really stirred things up in the PR community this week by Stephen Pearlstein called "No Comment: The Death of Business Reporting." Really an interesting story, and I think that this is sort of companies and public relations programs for big companies really being called out for some bad behavior when dealing with our journalist friends. So Stephen Pearlstein wrote this story, and he basically starts out and says, hey, I went looking for a well-run company to write about, and I quickly hit upon Clorox, which shows up in the best companies to work for, and they got a lot of awards for marketing campaigns and stuff. And then he contacted the company and basically said, I want to write a story about you guys. I want to figure out an angle. The director of corporate communications got back. Then a few days later, the person got back and said, hey, we're going to decline to participate because the Clorox executives were too busy. And then the article goes on to talk about all the different problems with corporate media relations these days. And I've certainly heard some of this as well. Like in today's climate, not a lot of people inside companies trust the media, right? And so they also perceive that maybe they don't need the media. That maybe they're going to, we're a big brand. We don't really need the media, so we can just kind of be our own media outlet. So allow me to give my opinion on this. If you work in media relations, it's built into your title is the media relations part, right? And he mentions, obviously, if you get back and you have to decline to participate with a journalist, they're going to understand that, right? And I think I would come up with something better than the executives were too busy to participate. That doesn't sound good, and I hope that's not true, because then that's just sort of it's a bit of an insult, for the journalist. So hopefully that's not true. But anywho, there are companies listed later on in this article. And the reporter says they just never got back to me. There's the only way to contact companies is to send an email to an email Dropbox or leave a message with media hotline that's unmanned 24/7. And you may or may not get a response from this. It's really, really important that companies have someone that is in charge of media relations and that's going to get back to the media in a timely fashion. Even if you decline to participate, it's not okay to not get back to them. It's not okay to say no comment and we've talked about that in our crisis episodes of the show and those kind of things. It's not okay, because if PR is designed to help the media do their job, right? And you're not helping anybody do your job if you're not getting back to them. It's rude, it's unprofessional. That's so I'm going to put media relations in the some of these corporate media relations departments in the losing category for this week, certainly. I'm going to talk just a little bit about this, but I'm really going to save it for the next show, but or for the in a couple of weeks. But California just passed a new data privacy bill. It's really, really important. There's a lot of articles about kind of what does it mean for companies. Marketing departments need to really pay attention and know all this. I mean, if you knew a little bit about GDPR, if you're in California in particular, you darn well better know what's going on with this. And you really better know what's going on because, as I've predicted, every state in the union is going to create its own data privacy bill, and then that will be superseded by the FTC, which will create its own data privacy bill, its own data privacy regulations that will come out sometime this year. And it'll probably be even more strict than the GDPR stuff was. So, like I said, I'm going to do a whole show just based on data privacy, just for communicators. And we're going to have a lawyer in here, a good friend of mine, answering questions about that and just sort of explaining what we in communications sort of need to know, and also, when to call a lawyer, when not to. And then the same day, I saw this story in the artificial intelligence section of VentureBee. It says Google will now let marketers tap its machine learning tools to create more targeted ads. Data privacy. Google will let marketers tap its machine learning tools. By the way, if you don't speak, AI BS, what that means is they're going to open up a bunch of really private data of people that I guarantee people either don't know is being opened up, or they don't know Google has it. And if they did, they would freak out instantly and contact Google and ask them to get rid of it. So anywho, I just want to throw that out there. Data privacy, like I said, fascinating subject. We're going to talk a lot more about it in the coming weeks. Can we talk about Papa John's chairman, John Shatter? So good old Papa John himself, John, he had to resign as chairman of the board this week because he used a racial slur on a conference call. So the company said that Olivia Kirtley would act as a lead independent director, and they will be appointing a new chairman in the coming weeks. So definitely losing, right? You just lost your job as chairman of Papa John's. and you see those commercials with him and Peyton Manning, and that kind of thing. And, you kind of, and then here he is making a racial slur on a conference call. There doesn't seem to be any additional information about, what slur he used or that sort of thing. But definitely losing, and definitely a word of caution when you're on a conference call, an earnings call, things like that. Don't use racial slurs. No, I mean, don't use them, period. Certainly don't use them on a conference call. So anyway, losing. Really, we were all sort of captivated by the story about the Thai boys that were rescued from the cave, and there's a lot of heroism going around, in this story, and I definitely want to say that I think it's winning, because I put it in the winning column because it's a feel good story, right? It's the kind of miraculous conclusion to a story that you thought wasn't going to end so miraculously. And, the Thai Navy SEALs, all over the news for this, absolutely, an amazing kind of captivating story. And what's amazing about it too is that most people know a lot of the details of the story. Just kind of shows the world that we're in today. I mean, I was at a business meeting this morning, and people know, most people kind of know the story. They know the deep details and that kind of thing. And so it's just, it's pretty amazing how that turned out. Last on the list, Victoria's Secret. Story came out in Fast Company that says nobody wants to buy Victoria's Secret anymore, even on sale. Market Watch reports that the parent company, L Brands, saw its shares shrink by 10% just this week, which was notable because it coincided with their semi-annual sale, which is where fans of the brand kind of flock to the stores and pick up the lingerie and that stuff. Now, what's interesting is why. The why is always interesting. Victoria's Secret has dominated this market for decades, and they kind of sell lingerie in a very kind of highly sexualized way. But in the women today, particularly in the post-Me Too movement, are starting to be driven away by the brand's marketing approach, right? And then there's a wave of fast-growing startups like Lively and Evelyn and Bobby and Third Love are really focusing on comfort and innovation and not really so much the sexy time kind of stuff. So interesting, very, very interesting, and something to take note of if you manage because your approach can be working, it can be working, and then all of a sudden it's not working, right? And that's why Victoria's Secret's in losing this week. And you are listening to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. I'm going to give you some tips on how to make your marketing more sensical. See you in a few.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EnterTalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. We are here at segment 3. We just did segment 2, talked about a whole bunch of people winning and losing all over the place. Paul B., what do you like this week in the winning and losing cavalcade of people?
I don't know about liking. I know what I dislike.
Lay it on me.
The Google thing's kind of sketchy. Google seems to be getting more and more invasive. Just on a personal note, a thing on my phone where you tap the little microphone and you could talk to it and just like call so and so used to work fine. Then after some update or something, I click on it and then it makes me, you can't use it until you enable some super invasive feature of it that I was avoiding for a couple of months, but finally, like, screw it, I just do it. And now it just gives me a play-by-play of my life on my phone. Like, it's 72 degrees right now, and you're enjoying an ice cream right now at this GPS location. How do you know that?
Yes. The clash between all the people, folks like Google and folks with mobile device apps and all these kinds of things that have all this information, the clash between people who have crazy amounts of invasive information and the government and it's defending consumers' right to privacy is going to be the next great battle in human communications that's coming. It's going to be wild to watch this thing pour out, because it's like I said, the last 20 years companies have been like, yeah, let's do it. Nobody's watching, and Grandpa at the government don't know what we're doing, so let's rock this thing.
Yeah,
And it's exactly like that, right? And then Grandpa at the government, hired some young people, and they're like, wait, they're doing what? They're doing. I'm sorry, what? And so they're like, well, let's do what governments do. Let's pass some laws and regulations and legislation, and then let's fine the crap out of people. I mean, it's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. I told you GDPR has a fine, on a first infraction of between 20 and 25 million euros.
Wow.
Now, baby, that's a check right there.
Yeah.
Got to say, that's going to put a lot of companies, right down the toilet, So there's a lot riding on this. You're going to dig the episode when we talk about data privacy. We're going to talk about Google specifically, being a California-based company, and now the California data privacy regulations dropped right on its front doorstep. I am dying to see what Google does.
Is this kind of like a last-ditch attempt to grab as much personal data as they can before the door is slammed shut kind of thing?
I'd be interested to know if Google thinks they're doing anything wrong.
I'd
be really interested. Yeah, I'd be really interested to see if they're a classic Jurassic Park logic company. They can do a lot of stuff. They can create velociraptors with all kinds of teeth and sharp fangs and stuff. And look what we created. And oh my God, it's this. And we use frog DNA. And we made it. It camouflages itself and all this stuff. And then, they can make anything, but they never, not one time, stop and go, wait a minute, should we be doing this? Should we? The should is something that's not in their vocabulary yet. But I would bet money that they are sitting in a room right now going, oh, a lot of the stuff that we can do is not good, right? Mm-hmm. Can be really used for bad stuff. So anyway, I'm going to be really interested to see what companies like Facebook and Google and companies, with headquarters, in the great state of California are going to do dealing with the new California data privacy stuff, which was written specifically to say, oh, no, you can't do that.
The conspiracy kind of nut in me kind of has a feeling that on some level, there's the government, and then there's the government. And I have a feeling that ultimately they have permission from the government. And that's why they kind of know they can get away with it because, I'm sure there's layers of government that love having this information as well.
Oh, yeah, believe me. And like I said, it's been the Wild Wild West, right? It's been like, there's no laws. You're like, if you've got a gun on you, open fire. As long as the body doesn't stink, we're in good shape. You know what I mean? Just open fire, baby. Yeah. But like but as it kind of evolves, you're seeing people go, oh wait, it's not good to gun people down on Main Street and leave the corpse there. Mm-hmm. We need to have some rules.
Throw some leaves on top of it.
Yeah, we need to have some rules about gunning people down in the square. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to see the Wild Wild West get start to get tamed or grow a conscience, or however you want to say it, by these data regulations. That is going to be a fun show. Even though data privacy probably doesn't excite people, get ready for the battleground it's going to be the fight of the century.
It'll probably be more fun to watch than the World Cup. Oh no!
You went there.
I didn't actually just say that. You misheard me. You misheard me.
Oh man, jeez! If somebody from France is like, "I will not listen to your show anymore," screw you in your show.
Scott Robertson and ScottRobertson.com do not support the opinions of Paul Bierzetsky, the engineer. Disclaimer.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, that's winning and lose. Let's get into. I was going to give you guys before I get out of here today. I was going to give you some sensical marketing tips to make your marketing more sensical. We're talking about common sense, and we're talking about how it's kind of uncommon, and that's sort of fun stuff. The whole show today. I want to give you a couple of things that just kind of come naturally for me as I'm looking out to the world. Like I said, you line up 10 different marketers, they're going to say, hey, this makes sense. Somebody at Google is going to be like, yeah, look how much data we have. We can create, you can create the perfect targeted ad to the person at the exact moment that they kind of need it, and in theory that's great. But, again, there's, to me, that conscience piece comes in and goes, should we have this data? Is this really going to start freaking people out? That kind of thing. Anyway, like I said, this is the stuff that kind of makes sense to me. Tip number one, and this just, I can't imagine anybody would argue this, but you must start with empathy for the audience. If you start your communications with the idea of how can we sell them, how can we get them, how can we target them, how can we, mount an offensive to get them, then you've started in the wrong place. You need to start with, what if I was them? That empathy thing is sort of the ability, in your emotional intelligence quadrants, right? It's the ability for you to be able to kind of step outside yourself, imagine that you're somebody else, and now imagine what you're about to inflict on them was it getting ready to be inflicted on you, right? Sort of that golden rule thing. This is really, really important. All of my years of marketing, I've been pretty good at thinking about things from the audience's perspective. The end in mind of all marketing efforts is a relationship with the audience. If you don't start what you're doing with a lot of empathy for them and go, man, they got 40 emails today. They hit unsubscribe to about 5 of them so far, right? And in addition to, and those are just marketing emails. They got 40 like bulk emails from people. They, have a whole list of stuff they need to do for their job. They have, a whole bunch of other, coworkers rattling at them, all these kind of different things. You must think about the audience. You must begin your communications with empathy for them. If you do that, then you'll come to the conclusion that their life would be complete if they did not hear from you today. Right? There's nobody's life here on Friday the 13th, in July of 2018 that is going, this was not a good day for me. I did not get that sale from Musician's Friend. I didn't get it, and now I'm sad. They don't care is a great way to start. They either don't care or they absolutely, under no circumstances, want to hear from what you're doing. Start there. And people say, oh, well, Scott, I might as well not send him anything if that's what. Hear me out, okay? Start with empathy, and then you understand that they don't really care to hear from you. Now you understand the level of the communication that you need to produce that is going to be great for them, right? And then this is the hardest part. If it's not great for them, if it's not absolutely useful and like the best thing that you can produce, don't ship it. Don't send it. Don't send it out, because you could do more damage than if you were just quiet for a day and didn't say anything, right? A good rule of communications. When you start with empathy, you'll understand very quickly that if it's not great, it shouldn't go. And if it's not, and that flies in the face of the marketing that says, well, I've got a timeline, and it says that we're supposed to send out marketing automated messages to these people at this level in the funnel and this kind of stuff. Throw all of that garbage out. Throw it out. All right? And start with empathy. What do they want to hear from us? What would really make their day, right? Maybe something that would make their day isn't about us. One of the great learnings in communication is how can you, if you're really thinking about them, then you might come to the conclusion that maybe it doesn't always have to be all about you and what you're doing, But if you start with a punch list that says we have to get all this stuff out to them, we have to get this out and that out and that out, then you're starting at the wrong place. So start at the right place. Number 2, very, very important. Trust your audience to behave, right? Trust your audience. Trust them that when you send something to them that is great and fantastic and perfectly aligned with what they want to do, then they will behave. People want to buy things. And people have to buy things, and people want to buy things, right? Some of the reasons that we don't is because that marketing feels the need to absolutely just bludgeon us over the head with their messages. Albertsons Supermarket, sends me 8 emails a week on average, or they did before I unsubscribed to them. This comes from the idea of, if a little marketing is a good thing, then if we just up our the amount of marketing messages we send them, then they'll buy more. Allow me to acquaint you with the fable of the goose that laid the golden eggs, right? Goose was, laying a golden egg every single day. Everybody was happy. Everybody was good. And then the greedy human being, owner said, what if I cut the goose open? I'll get all the golden eggs and it'll be great. And now the goose is dead and there are no more golden eggs. Okay? And you're like, well, Scott, why are you talking about fables? Because if you think that if a little bit of marketing is great, then a lot of it's going to be so much better, then you don't know that fable. You don't understand what is about to happen, right? And that's the fable is a cautionary tale, for that. So don't do that. Don't bludgeon people with the messages. Trust people. Market with confidence. You don't ever see Apple begging for your business, right? You don't ever see BMW begging for your business. They're above it, right? They trust you to make the right decision, and they're really good at it because they can lean into it and say, well, I don't know. Maybe this isn't for you. This is really for just the top people. I don't know. Maybe you're a top person. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not. You have to tell us if you think you are. Do you see what happened there? Do you see the difference in the message that those luxury brands do it? And you can do it too. And I help companies do that kind of stuff. Tip number 3. Don't do anything stupid. Which sounds, again, common sense, but try to eliminate all the things that you think are going to create additional work for the PR department. Things like using a racial slur on a conference call, for example. That would be on that list. things about weighing in on Twitter on something that doesn't concern you or the highly charged political topic on behalf of the brand. If you do, apologize and move on. It's important to do that. But, really put your common sense hat on. If you're in the marketing department for an organization, I think it's part of your responsibility to kind of be the common sense police and to go, we could do something like that, but let's talk about risk versus reward. Let's talk about risk versus reward and those kind of things. And you want to take the right risks, of course, but there's a lot of stupid in the world, people, and there doesn't need to be this much. Just needs to be like a little bit of thinking going on. My fourth tip of making sense of things is don't fear the measurement stuff. The data scientist side of things and the measurement side of marketing is really, really important. We need to be able to understand how people are interacting with things that we're sending out there. We need to have a good understanding of that because we're in the relationship business, right? So we can do things that are better for the relationship, aside from that. And we trust people that if we have a strong brand relationship with them, that they will buy from us. So we're relieved from having to do that. And now we can just, make sure that we're not being afraid of the measurement. And sometimes there's not enough measurement or measurement of the right stuff that's going on, with companies. Did you know there are hundreds of companies that promise lead generation to different companies. And what they basically will do is they will take your brand and take a bunch of people that they got on a list and probably don't have consent to market to, and then they will put a bunch of lower-level employees, to telemarket to those people. No one likes getting telemarketing calls, and they maybe get like one lead, and it's probably not qualified for you, and then they'll send it to you, but then measure all the things that, imagine all the people, the bridges that got burned and how your brand got burned through this. Really, really important to make sure you're measuring that stuff too. And my fifth tip, just real quick, is make sure you're having fun. Make sure that you are taking chances. That's what makes all of this make sense. And it is a fun profession. Marketing is a lot of fun. It's never dull. I was in a business meeting this morning. People said, "What do you like about marketing?" I'm like, "It's always different. It's always, interesting." What did we learn today, folks? We learned that what we might call common sense isn't common at all. And in a few instances, it will be better if companies, kind of got with that program. We're always going to see it differently, but we can all tell when marketing is really screwing up, and there's too much great opportunity out there to just waste it like some companies are complacent to do because they're just not thinking enough. That's all about common sense this week, and that's it for me, folks. Until next week, this has been Scott Robertson, host of May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media. Rock on. Have a great weekend. Thanks. You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Entertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. pitbullaudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?